Well, that was weird. Hi, good evening, good afternoon, good morning. I had a little technical glitch that was something I've never seen before, but that's how it goes. And it doesn't matter because you're here and I'm here, and that means we're here. Welcome to ADRAMADA, another Dave Rush Ask Me Anything, digital alchemy. Come for the shirts, stay for the news and the project. I am your host, Dave Rush, and you are the proud ADRAMADA Armada. Armada just doesn't work for a space theme, does it? Oh, well. We're a show. We're a tech show. We're a non-tech show. I live to find things that I find are interesting and share them with you. And hopefully you will tell me things that you're interested in, and I either know something about it or will learn and maybe learn from you. And we'll see how that all goes. So today, if you're not watching this live, stop it. Start watching live on Mondays at 7 p.m. Central Time. If we're on Daylight Savings Time, saving, singular, then it's at 7 o'clock Daylight Saving Time. And if we're on Standard Time, it's at 7 o'clock p.m. Standard Time. There, simple, easy stuff. So it is Monday, as I record this, March 9th. Yeah, we're a third of the way through the month. Next week, day after the show, is St. Patrick's Day. And let's see what's going on. Who's here and who's not, and what haven't I done yet? So much stuff. Can I do this? Yeah, I can do this while I'm talking. I'm putting contact information up in the chat feed. If for some reason you want to find me in other venues, or get in touch with me because you have a great idea for a show, because you found some really cool factoid. These are the ways that you can do such a thing. 3, 4. Mastodon. Nobody ever talks to me on Mastodon. I like Mastodon. So, somebody contact me on Mastodon sometime. All right, well, who's here? Tellowit shows up almost 7 hours early. Patricia shows up exactly 4 hours later. Sorry, 5 hours for Tellowit. And an hour early for Patricia. Beg your pardon. And everybody, good afternoons. And I'm okay. My voice is fine. I'm not choking or gagging. It just sounds like I'm choking or gagging. Galaxy S26 Ultra, as we learn about ELCs, ELCs. Yeah, I think I have a 23, and I'm sure I could get a couple more years out of it, but I'm already starting to think about it. Yeah, then there's a change of clocks, as we all went through that this past week, and that wasn't my technical problem. I started streaming from the OBS software, and YouTube wasn't picking up the stream. And I refreshed the page and went to another page, and there it goes. You sprung for the 25 Ultra last year, so yeah, I don't have the Ultra. I just have a 23. Nice, but it's a great phone. Really enjoy it. Thank you for the show. As we head towards Pi Day. Pi Day is coming, right? We got 514, 314. Yeah, I know it's going to be midweek. We'll talk about Pi Day next week. I don't have much in the way of pie today, but I do have an interesting topic. All me, all me, all me. Okay. So now let's go back up here and see what's happening. Do this. Prep you. That's kind of a weird thing. You'll get a kick out of this. I think you will. All right, so just quickies for interesting things for me and the world in the last few days. This weekend, the missus and I saw a blurb on some social media site I was on, a clip of a movie, about 30 seconds of it, so it had Jim Parsons in it. And what do they call it? Degrees. I am 2 degrees away from Jim Parsons. He went to the same school as my kid. We know people that went to school with him, and they're still in touch. And okay, so we like Jim Parsons, Sheldon on Big Bang Theory. And I recognized the movie. I didn't know that Jim Parsons was in this movie, but I recognized from the 30 seconds of movie that I saw that the movie was Hidden Figures. And I thought, well, that ought to be a nice movie to catch. And so we did. Wow. Okay, it's not a 10, but it's a good solid 8. And it's a good movie. I'm going to give it as a strong recommendation. Great acting. Underlying the whole core of smart women performing incredible mathematical and calculating and engineering feats at NASA in the late 50s, early 60s, there is this undertone of the societal change in racism that was happening in the early 60s. And so that was an important part of the film, but I thought it was well handled. It wasn't the core theme of all of it, but it's a solid undercurrent. And if you don't walk away feeling a little uncomfortable, you're missing it. Good acting, some nice special effects. They did scenes of rockets and people entering prop space capsules and things like that were wonderful. They were very realistic. Good movie. There you go. Yesterday, Sunday, was International Women's Day. I hope you celebrated it with the women in your life. Today has been a very newsworthy day. Oil started out at the beginning of the day at 100, bounced all through the day between 100 and 120. I don't know what it closed at, but the price of gas is zooming right now. We are in daylight saving time. Add argument for, against, or alternatives here. I'm not going to discuss it. Hang out with us on the Discord server, where we have something of a discussion going on there about what we should do about it, like it's going to make the slightest bit of difference. Okay, so today is March 9th. What happened on March 9th between now and 1497? I'm glad you asked. Because on this date in 1497, does it amaze you that the calendar has been tracking for that long and much farther even? Anyways, Nicholas Copernicus made his first recorded astronomical observation. We all know Copernicus, and we're fans of space here on the shows. Then, a couple hundred years later, at least 150 or so, Ulysses S. Grant named commanding general of the U.S. Union Army. And 40, 50 years later, Mexican General Francisco Pancho Villa invades the United States. The U.S. seems to have survived. This one's fascinating and right in key with the movie that I saw. On this date in 1961, which is about when the movie was pretty well tightly focused, Sputnik 9 was launched. Carried in return from orbit a dog named Chernushka, which they say is named Blackie. I have heard him called other translations that have nothing to do with Blackie, but okay. They also dragged up some frogs and some guinea pig. And the last one, 1974. I know this story, but I don't know it in detail. Hope there's a good book or a good movie about it, because I would like to look into this a little bit further. On this date in 1974, the last Japanese soldier from World War II, his name was Onoda, a guerrilla fighter operating in the Philippines, surrenders 29 years. Oh, stop it now. My phone just tried to pick that up. After World War II ends. So he's out there living in the jungle, fighting the war all by himself for almost 30 years. So I'm sure there's a good book out there on it, or hopefully even a movie. Oh, what else we got going on? Okay, so I got links and email addresses going on there. Let's talk about it last week or last time we did a show. Apologies for the last 2 weeks. I missed shows. I don't get gigs on Mondays or Fridays. Last couple of weeks, I've had gigs on Mondays and Fridays. None today, and my big gig tomorrow. Wheels came off the wagon on that. I had a really, really, really amazing gig tomorrow, and apparently through some fault of my own, I screwed up and lost the gig. Anyways, so last time we did a show a couple weeks ago, we started to look at network firewalls, where you can take almost any Linux box and some other operating systems that has firewall software or firmware and turn it into a network firewall. One box take care of the whole network. The trick is twofold. The box should perform router functions. It's got to be able to take information in and either forward it to your default gateway or and do the same thing in reverse, or in and out on the same NIC, but again, in and out still meets the router function. And then the other thing is you've got to convince all of the hosts on your network to use that box, to send their data to it as opposed to the default gateway. So we can do it with a Raspberry Pi. I don't love that since Raspberries typically come with a single NIC. However, you can add a second NIC via the USB ports, or the reason that I've delayed doing this is because I've ordered a hat for the Raspberry Pi that has actually 2 more NICs on it. So you can make a 3-port router out of this thing. And that's where I'm going with on that. This week's show, I've had this scratching at the back of my neck for a couple of years, and I finally decided to bite the bullet and do it. I want to share with you electronics theory. I want you to make electronic projects, and we can and will talk about resistors and capacitors and inductors and transistors and all that good stuff. But simple digital electronics are very quick and very easy to make, design, understand, certainly. And that's the road we're going to go down today. I'm going to show you electronic logic circuits. And we're going to lay down a basic foundation, talk a little bit about their use. And I think it's a cool thing. I hope you enjoy this. Electronic manufacturers have made it really easy to implement logic circuits. And so we'll do that. It's a big topic. We're just going to scrape the surface and up with that. All right, what are you guys talking about? I see motion over here. Hey, Jesse. Jason's here, Jesse. Hey, Jason. Can't wait. Tell us on the Discord server. I don't want you to expose anything here. It's a little more public. But can't wait to hear where you're moving along in the process that you showed us the other day. And I posted a link for you. I posted a link in the other Discord server that we all play around with, and then I posted a link in our Discord server to the link in the other Discord server. And it was interesting. I read it. I don't know how accurate it is, but it's interesting. Miss being in Florida sometimes. Yeah. Patricia. Brian, you're not certain. You don't have to miss being in Florida. Texas wants you too. You got the right fit for Texas. You think the right way. Yes. I think most of us are against DST. I have no idea what the real rationale in Congress is to maintain it. Of course, you don't do it there, so yeah, fine. Always a possibility. That's cool. The world is your oyster, my friend. Okay. Well, let's see what's going on here. Do some slideshowy stuff. Oh, that's our that was my slide for today's topic. I did not select on purpose a transparent image, but I like the way it came out. So these are called logic gates. There, enough said. But they all have meaning, and they all have functions, and they're really kind of cool. All right, a better slide then. Let's start with, hey, there we go, first news of the day. All right, we get political. We're allowed to get political, but I'm not going to get political here. This is just news and information as it fits in the tech and non-tech world sometimes. So, the headline, let's see, this is from ARS Technica. Satellite firm pauses imagery after revealing Iran's attack on U.S. bases. So there's a company out there called Planet. And they want to prevent adversarial actors from using images, satellite images, for battle damage assessment purposes. And so foreign workers, watches, I don't care about that part. Planet Labs, one of the world's leading commercial satellite imaging companies, said Friday it's placed a hold on releasing imagery of some parts of the Middle East as this regional war enters its second week. And effective immediately, all new imagery collected over the Gulf states, Iraq, Kuwait, adjacent zones, will be subject to mandatory 96-hour delay before it's made available in our archive. There are exceptions, I believe the U.S. government is an exception to that. Moving on. I was making, resizing slides, and I realized when I saw this one that I had a setting wrong. And so some of them got cut off, but I fixed them later. Headline from ScienceAlert.com. Common supplement shows a concerning link to heart failure. And you can see down here on the slide, melatonin. They did a survey, 130,000 adults across multiple countries, for people who were prescribed melatonin long term. They had an 89% higher risk of heart failure over 5 years and were twice as likely to die from any other cause compared with those not prescribed melatonin. First of all, it's not peer reviewed. Second of all, it's a very preliminary study. So what it points to is further study is needed. But if you're self-prescribing and you are in a risk category, it might be something to reconsider. And you certainly want to talk to your physician if they are prescribing it. Also, in things that aren't necessarily good for you, this is from Science Daily. The image is from the BBC. And the image has nothing to do with the story that this image came from, has nothing to do with the story that I'm going to share with you now. From Science Daily, study finds phone use on toilet may cause painful medical condition. Some of you know our good friend Scarhart. And Scarhart has been preaching this message for as long as I've known him. 15 years now, something like that. So scrolling on your phone while doing your business may be doing more harm than you think. New study found that people who use smartphones during restroom visits had a 46% higher risk of inflamed hemorrhoids compared to those who don't. Basically, because you're hanging out there a little longer, and things are hanging out a little longer. I know. There's a certain grossness to that. Fine. Okay, so let's move out of health and gross and move into... We talked about a story last year where AI is using artwork that it finds online and uses it to either recreate it uses it as a basis for creative development, whatever. And so they started inserting code in there, pixels and things like that, that confused AI and made it difficult, at least in sort of an arms race. We make it difficult, AI figures it out, they do it again. But it made it difficult for AI to use this artwork that had been treated. Well, here we go, basically the same thing with anti-deepfake for audio. Deepfake songs are exploding, but a new tool shuts them down. The arms race continues. This is from Tech Explorer. I'm trying to get good at that, at being a little better at giving credit where I find these things. In collaboration with the startup company Cauth AI, C-A-U-T-H, faculty and students at Birmingham University, State University of New York, SUNY, have developed My Music, My Choice, a digital safeguard that empowers artists by protecting their songs from generative AI cloning. They wrote a paper, it's presented at a big neural conference, Neural Processing Systems, in 25. It adds small, imperceptible changes to a song's waveform. When you play it back, human ears can't hear the changes, but it confuses AI models when they try to replicate the song and results in production of distortion noise. It says it only produces distorted noise. I thought that was interesting. I need an iPad. Oh, gosh, that's hard to say. But I do, because it's becoming a necessary tool for some of the tasks that I do for my side gig. And I just ran across a news article. I'm not sure that this will help, because I'm not sure that you can do on an iPad what you can do on a MacBook. Maybe you can. Now it's time for me to start learning. But in 2 days, Apple will release their newest, latest, greatest MacBook, the MacBook Neo, launching at $599. They have been strongly reticent at introducing cheap laptops, and somebody finally called them up inside and said, you know what? We're losing revenue to Chromebooks and things like that, so it's time for us to release a cheap one. So, biggest push yet into the low-end laptops, challenges Windows PCs and Chromebooks for budget-minded shoppers. It'll be available in 2 days, March 11th. It's about $400 less than any new generation Apple has sold before. So their cheapest MacBook Air is $1,100, $1,099. So 13-inch screen, it's small. But the Air is only 13.6 inches. Runs on an iPhone A18 Pro chip. So that's the first smartphone processor in a Mac. Wow. All right, you're going to like this one. I like this one. I hate this one, to tell you the truth. If you don't know me well yet, I'm one of those paranoid people when it comes to becoming traceable online. Well, here we go. A mandatory safety feature in millions of cars can be used to track where you drive. Researchers in Europe have revealed a potential backdoor surveillance system. It's mandatory in all cars in the U.S. built over the last 20 years. And with this, you can see on the screen what it is. You know what it is. You can track somebody for as little as $100 in equipment. So scientists at the IMDEA Networks Institute, working with European partners, found that the TPMS system, required in all new passenger vehicles sold in the U.S. since the late 2000s, pose a significant security risk because their identifiable wireless signals can be captured and analyzed. So just like that thing that you have in your car for going through tollways, the little electronic transponder, this can be read when you go through, and they can track where you're going when they tie those networks together. It's a relatively easy thing. So small sensors, $100 for a cheap radio receiver. Once the signal is recorded, the vehicle's unique identifier can be stored and later recognized by deploying multiple receivers, team-tracked individual vehicles, and reconstructed their travel patterns. This story is for Patricia and anybody else who likes Linux Mint. There's some Linux stories. Linux Mint devs prep a Wayland native cinnamon screensaver. Oh, you're saying screensavers. Screen rendering in Linux is a holy war between Wayland and IPX and the other 13 of them. Each of them is sort of fighting for space, maybe to become the leader. And there's a solid three-way tie or so with some other also-rans in there. So you can have a Wayland screensaver for the Cinnamon desktop in Linux Mint, but it's a program. It's programmed in C and Python. Devs are now making it internal native. And for people who understand and recognize that they may need Wayland, this is a really powerful thing. We also see that that's being looked at in Canonical's upcoming Ubuntu 2604, which will come out in April, right? Year 2026, 04. So that's their annual 2-year biannual long-term support versions. We got a new LTS coming out in a couple of years. All right, I'm not going to read the rest of that. It's interesting. The state of California has created legislation that will go into effect in short order, requiring operating systems to, the phrase I have here, let users input their birth date during setup in order to follow child privacy rules. So, big meeting right now between Ubuntu, Fedora, Linux Mint, whoever else is involved in that, to get together to talk about how, if, when, why they should implement this. And it's hard to beat a population like California, and it's law there now. I don't know. I think there's a lot of questions here. Nobody's forcing them to use Linux. They could, but you know, do they sue the parents if they use an OS where somebody can't track a user's age? I don't know. All right, that's going to take us to the slideshow for projects. And where are we at here? Oh, right on schedule. Very nice. All right, what are you guys chatting about? Now I'm going to switch to another video back to C. Sound low, or is it me? I haven't made any changes to my sound system. Sorry, we message here. Smartphones replace newspapers and magazines. Yep. Don't have a home entertainment system. Yeah, remember when we all had home entertainment systems and big screens in your bathroom? It's just me. All right, sorry, Patricia. I have no gigs this week right now. Phone's going to ring, and I'm going to do that, but that'll give me a chance to get my little studio here reorganized. I have the mini for all you people. And the induction burner. All right, deliveries come in through the pulley system. Stop it. A dumb waiter into my restroom. Reading. My Hyundai Kona has a lot of these features. So we had family in the other day, and one of them rented the newest, latest, greatest car. They always have not something new. Every time I get into a new vehicle, there's a pile of stuff that's so new, it's shocking. And whoever it was, the relative that rented it, just tossed me the keys and said, take us to. And so I got in. I was able to start it. Then it took me a minute or two to figure out how to get it into gear. Yeah, X11, thank you. Not huge, right. Tracks them with me all the time. California, Colorado, New York, Illinois. Okay. And Brazil, my favorite country, just because it's fun to pronounce. Hey, well, Laura, we got about a half an hour of showtime left. So let us chat a little bit about today's project, which is electronic logic. And the first thing I want to show you, I'm going to put 3 links in the chat feed. 1, 2. These get cut off, so what you've got to do if it cuts off is click on it and go to it and then leave that window up or save the whole link in there. These long ones get cut off. This is Dave, I want to know more. And these are some good sites. There are hundreds of electronic hobbyist sites that focus on all kinds of different areas, from everything to just tight focus. And I found these particularly helpful in prepping for the show. So we're going to talk a little bit about math and logic. We know math. And for whatever math makes you happy, you can get deep into 4th dimensional math or string theory or, but no matter what depth of mathematics you're playing with, non-Euclidean geometry, you're still going to boil it down to the 4 basic mathematical functions that we all know. Add, div, mult, sub. Okay. Now, electronic logic and philosophical logic, they've got some crossover. In general, logic says, think about a problem and compare it against known standards to create a result. Okay, maybe that result is I need more information, I need more standards, or maybe it is a conclusion. That's the best we've got until somebody comes up with more or better. So whether we're talking about why is the sky blue before we had scientific instruments other than eyeball observation, oh, wait a minute, the sun goes down and hey, the other things turn blue when light affects them a certain way. Right now we've got facts and now we're comparing them against the real thing. It's as close to a thought experiment using the scientific method as we get. Well, that was boiled down into mathematical operations as electronics got more and more sophisticated. We moved from analog electronics. I'm making hand symbols here like you can see them. Should I put myself in the corner? Yeah, why not? All right, let's put me in the corner there. And then back to slideshow over here. All right, now we're working business. So in electronics, when we do logic, what we're going to do is we're going to compare binary numbers, Boolean math. We're going to combine those things, those zeros and ones, that's our binary digits, and Boolean math is not add, div, mult, sub. There are 7 standard Boolean operators. And we've got them listed here in this little slide. Inversion, ands, nands, ors, nors, XORs, and XNORs. What does all of that mean? I don't know. But we'll see if we can figure it out, right? So we start by creating a piece of electronics called a gate. Now you can make a gate with a handful of transistors and resistors, but we have integrated circuits now, so we take all those things and we squeeze them down into silicon, and we represent the result with a schematic. This particular little beast is a gate. All of our operators are gates, and sometimes they have 1 input, and sometimes they have 2 or 3 or 8, or you never know. It depends on what you need and what you want. And we'll work with this 2 input gate, this AND gate, and we're going to send a 1 into it or a 0 into it, maybe a 1 on one channel and a 0 on the other channel, or reverse it or whatever. And the job of the gate is to do its Boolean mathematical operation, its logical operation, and come up with a result and send that result out. So in this particular example, we have what looks like a digital 1, a positive going voltage, we'll call that 1 for now, on input channel A, and another one on input channel B. And an ANDer, an AND machine, an AND gate, does his Boolean math to it and says, okay, well, when you AND a 1 and a 1 together, the result is 1, and he sends out a 1. Okay. We'll make this make sense, I promise. We're just kind of laying down some broad strokes. So it's the job of a gate to check the input values and to generate, I'm going to use my own term here, a normal output. We're going to find a place to apply that shortly. Now, when you have a gate like this, there are 4 possible combinations of inputs. Positive on channel A, or a 1 on channel A, and a 0 on channel B, a 0 on A and a 1 on B, a 0 on A and a 0 on B, or a 1 on A and a 1 on B. And each of those is going to result in some different output. So when they make these devices, these gates, they create a table to show us graphically what this thing does. And that table is called a truth table. So in this particular AND gate, if we put a 0 on input A over on the left side of the chart, top left, and a 0 on input B, the output is going to be a 0 voltage, or a 0 signal. I beg your pardon. If we put a 1 on A and at the same time put a 0 on B, the output is 0. Switch them around. A 0 on A, and let's change the wording a little bit now. AND it with a 1 on B, the result is 0. Turns out that an AND gate only generates an output of 1 if the 2 inputs are both 1s. Now, how can I make that useful? Hey, well, this is kind of cool. How about I make a temperature sensor that always generates 0 voltage unless the temperature gets above 70 degrees. So here it is, 60 degrees, 50 degrees, 40 degrees. And that thing is always sending zeros and zeros and zeros and zeros to input A of this AND operator. Now we know from this truth table that the output, no matter what's going on input B, is always going to be 0. If you put a 0 on A, the result's always 0. But now how about I got another sensor on input B, and it's a humidity sensor. And as long as humidity is below 50%, it sends out zeros. So if the temperature is below 70 and the humidity is below 50%, it's sending zeros and zeros. Hey, wait a minute, the temperature's just gone up 75 degrees Fahrenheit if you're watching this outside the US. Hey, input A just went positive. It just went to a 1. Well, that's great, but humidity hasn't changed yet. I'm still sitting at 0, so second row, 1 and 0, output 0. But humidity is rising. Ooh, 50%, 60%, 70%. Bingo, I hit the target. And now both the temperature are high enough and the humidity is high enough to send 1s into this AND gate. And now the output will send a 1 perhaps to a humidifier or an air conditioner, a dehumidifier, whatever. So that's what we use gates for. That's one of the many things. Of course, we can use it for circuit comparisons and all kinds of goodies like that. Now I want to show you an additional concept here. Here's an AND gate. If I take a gate and I put an N in front of the gate name, it becomes a NAND gate in this instance. Okay, here's a NAND gate. And I'm going to go back for a second to that AND gate and look at the output where it contacts the semicircle on the right-hand side. There's just a line that touches the semicircle. Now let's go to our NAND gate. Ooh, there's a little circle now between the output wire and the semicircle of the AND gate, making this a NAND gate. That's the schematic symbol for ANDs and NANDs. And an N means not. And all it really means is you have the same thing that you had before, an AND gate, except whatever the Dave Rush term normal output of the gate is, it's reversed. So if we normally send out a 0 in an AND gate, whatever condition generated that 0 is now in an AND gate going to generate a 1. So take it on faith right now that the truth table here is in the same order. So I'm going to go back to the AND gate, and the first 3 input conditions are all generate 0, 0, 0 in the right-hand column, and only 1 and 1 inputs generates a 1. Now let's go to AND, or the NAND gate, and look at that. Same conditions, but now they generate in the third column 1, 1, 1, or 0 when there's 2 1s. So you can take most gates, AND gates and OR gates and things like that, and add an N to them and make them a NOT version of that. And we can tell if something is a NOT by the little circle on the output line. Okay, that's NAND gate and table. Now I want to show you one other letter that we can stick in front of something, and it's the letter X. It stands for exclusive. We have an OR gate here that's been made exclusive. The little standalone semicircle on the left-hand side of this thing is the symbol that made an OR gate into an XOR gate. And in an OR gate, if input A or input B is a 1, then the output is a 1. So this one's kind of cool. If we look at an OR gate, the left-hand truth table, both inputs zeros. Well, neither of them are a 1, so the output is 0. Oh, but the middle two, there's a 0 ORed with a 1. If either A or B is a 1, then the output is 1. Yeah, okay. And so I reverse those. One of them's a 1 again. Now, how about this last one? 1 and 1. Well, either input A or input B or both is a 1. So that's going to generate a 1. In a normal OR gate, anything that's got a 1 in it generates an output 1. Only 0, 0 doesn't work. Now, when we make it exclusive, the rules are changed slightly, and there's no consistency to how the rules change for this kind of gate compared to that kind of gate. So when we take an OR gate and we make it exclusive, we make an XOR gate, only one thing changes on the truth table. And that is when there's a 1 on both inputs, no longer is the output a 1, it's a 0. Got that highlighted in the little red box. I'm going to come back to that because that is the key to all computer encryption. Almost all computer. Are you going to do this to me, Patricia? Hey, Shaya's here. Shaya Moonstone. All right, now let's get into the practical side. This is a chip with some gates on it. As it turns out, this particular chip with his 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 legs on each side, so 14 legs, they've taken this and put 4 NAND gates on it. And they used all the pins. They don't always do that. Sometimes they have an extra row of pins. Some chips have multiple gates on them. Some chips have only one gate on them. Sometimes it's a really big chip and only has one gate, kind of a waste of space. Some are little tiny chips with only 4 pins on them, or 5 or 6 or something like that. So chips come with single gates. Image 17, we're going to go to okay, let's go take another. All right, so here is an interesting little gate up on top. This is what's called an inverter. It has 1 input and 1 output. And the way it works is whatever signal you put in, a 1 or a 0, it would normally, if it weren't an inverter, come out the same on the other side. That's a special gate called a yes gate. This is a no gate or a not gate. So if I put a 1 in, I don't have the truth table on this one, but if I put a 1 in on A, because it's an inverter, because it's a not, got the little circle there, a 0 comes out, the output. If I put a 0 in on the A, the not inversion function turns that into a 1. Sometimes you just got to change the voltage or value of a signal. So here's a chip. It's a 74104 chip. A lot of letters in there that have meaning, but we don't care about them right now. So it's a 5-pin chip. We don't use pin 1, and they don't draw very well here with which is in and which is out, but they have it labeled. So we send an input signal onto pin number 2 on the left-hand side. Somewhere here in the middle of this chip is a triangle and a circle for inverter. So I said this before, I'm going to say it again. When you want to figure out what an inverter, what a NOT does, just look at the function as if it's normal. And then when you're all done, take the normal output and invert it. So this took a yes gate and turned it into a no gate or a not gate, or an inverter. Now, we've seen chips that have, or gates that have 1 input and 2 inputs. Here's some more. Left-hand side, all these are NAND gates. The middle one, all these are NOR gates, and they all have 2 inputs and 1 output. The right-hand side, the 7404 chip, those are a handful of inverters. Looks like 5 inverters, maybe more, that got cut off. And I like this guy. He got lost. Somewhere in here, we'll probably run into it accidentally. There's a slide that's an AND gate that has 8 different inputs. And so it's a really huge truth table, all the possible combinations, 2 to the 8th possible combinations of things that get ANDed together. Okay, so 19 multiple gates, 19 didn't happen. All right, so here's that NOT gate again. This time he's got a truth table. So he's an inverter. We send a 1 or a 0 into A. A 1 or a 0 would come out. See this little bar over the A? That means inverted A. Whatever goes in A, the little circle here, negative it or inverts it. And so we can see the table on the right-hand side. If we put a 1 in on A, the output, inverted A, is a 0. Down lower, the bottom row, if we put a 0 in on A, the output is inverted 0 or 1. Now this next slide is really cool. I'm an electronic hobbyist and I need an inverter, but I don't have one. And Radio Shack doesn't exist anymore. I'll order one online and be here in a day or 2, but I need it right now. You can do magic with other chips. This is a NAND gate. And if we tie the 2 inputs together, whatever signal I send into that tied in, it's always going to be the same on input A and input B, just as if it had 1 input. So I've taken a NAND gate and I've turned it into an inverter. It only has 1 A input, and the resulting output is an inversion of that input signal. Kind of cool. So we go back to this guy. On the left-hand side, I can tie pin 3B and 3A in the left-hand most picture together and turn that right-hand NAND gate into an inverter. You can take the output of one gate and send it to the input of another gate. Wow. And you can do that over and over and over, and you can parallel them, and you can do all kinds of electronic magic and make really sophisticated, amazing, powerful circuits. Okay, did that. Great. This is what happens inside your CPU. There are, they say, millions or billions of transistors. Yeah, there are. But they're wired up together to make all these gates. There's other things in there, but there are millions of gates. And they talk to each other, and they send this output to that output, and that output back to this input. Oops, let's see. Putting a bar over a symbol means it's an inverted output. Putting a dot between symbols, A dot B on the right side of this graphic, means they've been ANDed together. This is an AND gate. We saw that truth table. If you AND these two results, or these two inputs together, and they're both 1, the result is 1. Any other combination of 1s and 0s on A and B, A dot B is 0. I'm not going to go back to that slide because I got it right here. So here's that same AND gate that we started with at the beginning. Got his happy little truth table. The only way to get an output of 1, A dot B, is if input A is a 1 and input B is a 1. Bottom row. How are we doing on time here? 3 minutes. I'm going to run long. I'm probably going to run 10 minutes long, but I'm getting near the end. Sorry. It's worth it to finish this. Okay, that's slide 23. I have 30 slides. Let's talk about another kind of gate. An OR gate. So we saw an XOR gate. Now let's look at a real OR gate. A real OR gate, we show the output is a plus symbol. That's the logical symbol for OR. And if we say this in English, if either input, either A or either B is a 1, the output is 1. So 1, 0 is a 1. 0, 1. Either of them, one of them, is a 1. 1, 1. That results in 1. In fact, the only way not to get a 1 output from an OR gate is input 0 on A and input 0 on B. And I think, yeah, I did the next slide with a truth table. Lost. Oh well, you just have to take my word for it. Slide 28 was supposed to be XOR gate with truth table. That's what I get for double checking only once. Okay. So what we've got here is a NOR gate, right? It's an OR gate, and the output is inverted. So just like any other gate, I'm going to treat this like normal. It's an OR gate. So if either A or B is a 1, then the output normally would be a 1. Oh, but it's got an end circle. It's got a not circle in there. So instead of it being 1, it's inverted and it becomes a 0. And what would happen if you had 0, 0? Normally the output is a 0. But we invert that because it's a NOR gate, a not OR, and suddenly that becomes a 1. Any chance I did the truth table? Nope. You better have a truth table. Yeah, you do. All right, so we saw this guy earlier. This is an XOR, an exclusive OR gate, which means he's an OR gate for whom the rules have changed slightly. So we start by treating it. No, we don't start. We've got to understand the truth table before we can start using this thing. And the trick here is you don't use this thing and figure out what it does. You have a design goal in mind, and then you start looking through gates that will accomplish that goal. I want something that when I do 1 or 0, 1 on one or 1 on the other, generates a 1. But when I do 0 and 0, or 1 and 1, the output is 0. Well, they made a special gate just to do that, and this is our XOR gate. So normally if it was an OR gate, if either A or B has a 1, the output is 1. Let's take a look at the first 3 lines of that. A and B input, neither of them is a 1, so the output, C, is a 0. Second row, 0 and 1. One of them is a 1. A is not, or B is a 1, so the output 1. Cool. I'm good with that. How about we OR the third line? Or a 1 on A with a 0 on B. If either A or B is a 1, then the output is 1. Now a normal OR gate, last row, says if either A or B is a 1, the output is 1. Nope, they changed the rules on this guy, and they said, if A and B are both 1, then the output is a 0. Nobody memorizes this stuff. That's not true. You're using this stuff every day, but nobody who's exposed to this memorizes it, and you're certainly not going to. So let me zip through a couple of these, because there's 2 in here that I want you to see, and I want to talk about the XOR gate for just a second, and then we'll do the last 2 slides and wind this thing up. So up on top, we have a yes gate, also called a buffer. And the only deal with this guy is he's the reverse of an inverter. He's a non-inverter. Whatever you put in on A comes out on the output. Put in a 0, out comes a 0. Put in a 1, out comes a 1. So sometimes we use these just to separate this gate or circuit from that gate or circuit. Now here's this NOT. We saw him in the beginning. And a NOT says whatever you put in on A, invert it on the output. Now, you got to do this in your mind, but this is kind of cool. Take the output of a NOT gate and send that to the input of another NOT gate. Now you've got a double negative. And what happens when you have a double negative? You have a positive. You have a double buffer because a pair of NOT gates in sequence with each other is a yes gate or a buffer. All right, I did enough ORs and ANDs and NANDs and NORs and XORs. But let's stick around with XOR for just a second. This is going to take slides and a 10-minute presentation that I'm not going to do tonight. But XOR is really cool because if we take a value, in fact, let's go nuts. Let's take two values. And let's say we're going to take a sentence. The quick brown fox jumped over the lazy dog's back. And we turn that into binary. And we take the letter T. And let's say, for the sake of argument, that T in binary is 10101010. And the second one, I'm going to do another key. And it's another sentence. The man has purple hair. They have the same first word. And so in binary, the letter T on that second set is, that's not what I want to do. Sorry, got ahead of myself here. Just want to keep the quick brown fox. Now the second one is data that I want to send to something. Maybe it's the output of another world. Maybe it's another circuit. I don't know. I don't care. But I'm going to take the first bit of that and I'm going to put it on input B of my XOR gate. And I'm going to put the first byte of the quick brown fox on the input of input A. And I'm going to get a result on the outputs there. And send them down the road. And somebody's going to save those because this is really cool. This is magic. If we take that and we send that on one of the inputs of another XOR gate, and we use exactly the same pattern that we used as a, ready for this term, key. The quick brown fox is a key. So if I know the key that was used for somebody to generate this output, I can use the received scrambled data, XOR it with the known key, and the output of an XOR will be the original data. And this is how 90% of all encryption works. And what's amazing and what's magical about that, what's incredible about that, is we can do that on paper. We can do that with transistors. But it's all native and built in to CPUs. So do whatever pre-treatment you want to do to your data. But when you get all down to it, before it generates the output, it's going to go through one or sometimes a pile of XOR gates. And sometimes this XOR gate is going to use key A. And sometimes it's going to use key B and key C. And I got 35 XOR gates and I've got 35 different keys. As long as the sender and the receiver know them, it's a cool thing. Is that magic? Yes, it's magic. And we can combine them all together, and it's only done with OR gates. How about an XOR gate that's also a NOR gate? A NOT gate. So you got to study the truth table. I'm not going to do that down here in the lower right-hand corner. Coolness. A, yeah, clap. All right. That is that. Oh, man. Come on, come on, come on. Do we have it? Click. Nah. I lost. I don't know how it's possible. Well, I'll have these up for you next week. They're made. They're in my images folder. They just somehow didn't wind up. There are kits out there that have. Oh, all right, let's just full size this thing. There we go. Now it's lower. There we go. Back to me. There are kits that have gates on them and wires. You hook up a positive voltage or a 1 to the input of this gate and a 1 to that gate, and then you hook up the output to an LED or to the input of another one, and absolutely cool. Tell you what I'm going to do here. I'm going to put a term for you to search on, and you'll find a handful of these little kits. Some of them you DIY, do it yourself. Some of them are pre-built. You want to look for the pre-built ones, get rid of the DIY in this search, term, and the world is a happy place. All right, let me see what you guys were talking about while I was doing all that, and then we will wind things up. And yeah, I ran 10 minutes over, just like I figured. Sorry about that. But hey, I missed 2 weeks. I got to be allowed to run over a little bit. Right? Next 11. Hello. Yes, hello to Shia Moonstone. Both 1 or both 0 is an XOR. That's true. That's exactly right. I've always found this stuff fascinating. Great, but never understood it. Hey, sweet. I have accomplished my goal. I find it fascinating too. Thank you for all the claps. Sorry, I was searching the emoji. All right. Well, thanks, guys. I like this one. I will do a presentation, probably not next week, on how to use or how XOR is used in encryption and decryption. I'll take it to about 2 levels deep. It's one I always wanted to do at my former company, and I always got the kibosh on that. It's kind of unfortunate, but, and never thought about doing this on my own. Now I know I have the opportunity to do that. Yay! All right, I see no reason not to have a show next week. Right now, I have no gigs until the 24th. It's going to change, I assure you, but until now, we got a couple weeks. Remember, next Monday is the 16th, which means the day after is St. Patrick's Day, and in my neck of the woods, it's going to be 66 Fahrenheit. Okay, let's wind her up. Hey, again, if you are watching this thing on recording, I appreciate that. And I hope you can try and make it live sometime. We do have a lot of fun. We love your input. And catch us on the Discord servers and all the other places. We've got a fun group. You want to hang with our Discord people. All right. I wish you all a great rest of the week. Take care of each other. Take serious steps to stay healthy. And if at all possible, call or visit your parents. And never forget, technology is great, but the greatest resources we have are you and I. With that, good night. I'll see you on ADRAMADA this coming Monday and on other platforms I'm on. Until then, remember this. How you do anything is how you do everything. Eep, up, ork, ah, ah.